In this lecture segment, we will describe in more detail how we will determine events and their probabilities. There are some basic requirements of probabilities. First, the probability of any outcome must be between 0 and 1. You can't have a negative probability. Next, the sum of the probabilities for all possible outcomes in an experiment or situation must equal 1. There are three methods of assigning probabilities in a situation. The first assumes you have no basis to decide, the classical method. Therefore, all outcomes are equally likely. For the most part in business, we can do better than this. In the relative frequency method, we have some historical or experimental data with which we can estimate or predict future probability. This method will be the basis for most of this course and is almost always the starting point in a business situation. But in reality, all good business managers will also apply the subjective method using their judgment. Rolling a dice or tossing a coin are the best examples of the classical method. There's an equal probability of all of the outcomes. In the relative frequency method, as in this example, we have collected some data or have past records telling us the frequency of occurrence of the different outcomes. And in this example, we can calculate the relative frequency from that frequency table. And in fact, that relative frequency is the probability. Note that the sum of the probabilities must equal 1. In the subjective method, you will use your judgment to modify or improve on the knowledge from the relative frequency data. Using the Bradley investments example, an analyst could look at past data, but will use judgment to modify or assign probabilities for the 8 different outcomes. As we go through more examples in the next section, you will see that the probability of any event is equal to the sum of the probabilities for all sample points in that event. But we will need to identify all those sample points. So looking at the previous data for investments, the probability of oil stock being profitable is equal to the sum of the probabilities of each of the occurrences where that oil stock makes money. Similarly, with the mining stock, the probability for profitability is equal to the sum of each of the occurrences where the mining stock was profitable.